Hi, everybody, and welcome back. My name's Melissa, and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. Today's tip is to have a go bag. And you're probably wondering what that has to do with frugality. There's been a couple of times I've had to evacuate, and a couple of reasons I've had go bags. Some of my go bags just lived in the car, and some of them were more of like a fun go bag. Like I had when I lived in Florida. I lived in Cape Coral, which, well, it had its own beach. It was kind of meh. We were real close to Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel and all of those. And so there were days where I would pick my kid up from school and it was a nice day. So we would just like go to the beach. So I would have like his swimsuit and our towels and all of that in the bag so we could go. And we would go camping, and I used to hit this point where I was like, okay, I've had it up to here. I'm got to get out of town for the weekend. And so being able to throw some extra clothes in a bag and have all of my gear loaded in the car made it super easy. So, yeah, I mean, like, it was convenient for fun. So, like, when I heard about go bags in Florida, I really took ownership of the go bag thing. But in Florida, the reason why you have to have supplies and you want to have a go bag and stuff is because of weather and hurricanes specifically. And so I've kind of always had like the first aid bag, but I haven't been camping as much, and I've been more home, like at home most of the time. Because I used to be, uh, like when I lived in Florida, there were years where I was traveling for 1/3 of the year. Like I was camping and away from home. But now that I live in Illinois and I am up here and own my own home, and it's just different, and I don't have the van. I'm more homebound, so I did get rid of a lot of my different go bags that I kept in the car. Plus I had a minivan at the time. So my go bags didn't take up that much room. As far as like my for fun go bags, now I have a Encore, which is like this little crossover SUV kind of a thing. It's like teeny tiny. So I got rid of a lot of those. Well, I live in a park model, for those of you who don't know. So one great thing about my neighborhood, though, is we do have a shelter for tornadoes and inclement weather and stuff. So we can go, and there's like a basement for us to shelter in for those of us who are in park models so that we can be safe. Sorry. So I got every year we get our chargers set, like our travel chargers or whatever, so that we have those. That's normally my kid's job. They're really behind on it, so I have to actually get on them about it again. But I like to keep a backpack with some travel chargers so that if we get caught in the basement, we do have the ability to charge our phones. So, and this time of year we have a rule, we keep it at 60% or higher for our phones. And then some snacks and water and stuff for my kid, because my kid gets hangry and cranky, and I wanted to make sure that if we're down there for a while, they have stuff. So I'm set, right, for a tornado. And I probably, like we knew we needed other things. Like we knew that we'd want to like grab our cash, which we know where the cash is. My kid knows where my cash is too. And they know I know how much I have, but I also trust that they're not going to take my cash for the most part. So they know that if I'm not home, get themselves out first. But if they can quickly grab the cash, grab the cash. They, and we know to grab certain electronics, computer and stuff, and all But my go bag was really not as prepared as I thought it was. And I realized that it has gotten very disheveled and unorganized, and it should be more organized. So I am redoing my go bags because I realized on last Friday. So I don't know what order the videos are coming out in. I'm pretty sure that that video will have posted to explain it. But last Friday, I went out to go to work, and my neighbor had been burning, and it was like 25 to 50 mile per hour winds. It was like really windy, and we live in a very more like natural setting, like think campground with trees and reeds and lakes and stuff. And in fact, this was actually initially going to just be a campground, and now I have neighbors that have like actual real stick-built houses. Some of them, though, actually, because of what this was originally designed for, like I have a neighbor who's got a house that's an octagon. How cool is that? Okay, sorry, I'm off on a tangent again. But they were burning, and anybody who has ever lived in an area with fire risks or ever gone camping, like you don't burn when it's too dry, and you don't burn when it's windy. It wasn't necessarily overly dry. We've had rain. I mean, it was a little dry, but it was windy, like really, really windy. And they were burning this huge pile of leaves. It had to have been at least a 5-foot diameter circle. And we have tiny yards, and right next to them were these tall grasses and leaves and brambles and brush and like all the critters. Like the bunnies live over there when they're not living like in my yard. And sorry, my snack's ready. But lots of dry old fall leaves and stuff were there. So when the wind blew, his huge minimum 5-foot diameter pile of leaves that was like this huge bonfire, it blew it. You know what, just a second, I have to grab this so that it doesn't burn. Sorry, I thought I'd be quicker. But the stuff all caught on fire, and so naturally, like I beelined it for like the neighbor whose house it was heading towards. They have a baby and everything, and like I know that babies can't take that, and my first initial thought was, because I'm very familiar with like lungs and how they can be sensitive. I had long COVID, and then either COPD or asthma as a result of long COVID. We didn't know which, but then it went away and finally cleared up, so yay me. My kid had asthma. I've known numerous people with asthma. When I was a teacher, I actually had multiple students with asthma that were so severe they had to have all sorts of extra treatments at school because they were at a risk of not making it to the hospital alive, kind of asthma. So I know how delicate lungs can be. And I know a baby's lungs are super delicate. So like the first thing I thought was, it's a tiny home, smoke inhalation, like that baby's got to get out, right? So I ran and pounded on her door, and she panicked, and I ran and got her mother-in-law, and everything was taken care of. And then so she was leaving. I got her mother-in-law to take care of her and the baby. And then I ran back to my house to get my kid. I screamed at him, "Your test is over. Grab your go bag. The neighborhood's on fire." And so we had to leave. It took way too long for us to get out of here. Way too long. It took us a good 3 to 4 minutes, and that is too long, because what I realized, my first initial thought was smoke inhalation and smoke. But what I realized as I was packing up to go was that we all have propane tanks. I have a 100-gallon propane tank. My neighbor next to me has 300 gallons. The two people whose houses it was headed towards have 100-gallon. You know what happens when a 100-gallon propane tank has a fire on it? Do you know what happens when one of those blow? Not good things. If her tank had blown, I mean, I've seen what happens when a gas tank in a car blows that has like 14 gallons of gas. What's going to happen when a series of propane tanks start to go? Because once one hits, then I'm sure that the one that's, 20 or 30 feet from it is also going to explode, and it's going to create this chain reaction. So I realized I need to be prepared for multiple emergencies, because the thing is that, well, none of us want to have to think about our house burning down or any of that. We do need to be prepared, and we need to be able to get ourselves out safely, and we want to have certain things like our identification, so that we can get ourselves to safety and still know who we are, our prescriptions, our because I've been the one who was at the house and the neighbors' houses were on fire and we had to get our stuff out. And I've been the one who's had to grab the meds. I didn't even think to grab my meds. I would have been so screwed if my house had gone up in flames. So, yeah, so you want to be prepared and have your go bag so you can make a quick escape and not have to worry, and so that you can minimize your loss. And so you just, I could have been so screwed. And the thing is that, like not having my meds, that could have been a life or death situation. Not having money when you need to go quick, and any number of things can happen. Fire, tornado, hurricane, weather, So, sorry. So you definitely want to make sure that you are prepared. So today's tip for frugal living might sound odd, but it's really more of a preventative measure. And that is to have your go bag ready for any and all emergencies, so that you can make a quick escape, minimize damage, and minimize loss. Anyways, again, my name's Melissa, and this year I'm sharing 365 tips for frugal living. If you want to hear more, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.